Hayden Hackney rescues a point for Boro in what was undoubtedly our worst performance of the season. What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Project Boro, where today we are here to talk about Boro's 1-1 draw at home to Wrexham, to which we were saved in the 80th minute by the head of Hayden Hackney from what would have been, well, it would have been our worst defeat of the season, but it was our worst performance of the season. It wasn't great at all today from Boro in front of over 30,000 at the Riverside. A great chance to cling on to the coattails of Coventry City. Boro simply didn't turn up today. It was really, really poor, and there were definitely cause for concern in a few areas, I would say, because after Wednesday, obviously we got the result against Sheffield Wednesday, and I remember saying after that game, the performance wasn't great against Sheffield Wednesday. At times we did have some big chances, but it was patchy, and we had moments in the game, but for large parts we were fairly unconvincing. And I said it would kind of be forgotten about, that performance, if we backed it up with a good result and a good performance against Wrexham, as long as what we saw there didn't kind of leak into this performance. But this was worse. This was really, really poor from Boro, especially the first half. Listen, we changed it up second half, and credit to Rob Edwards, he threw absolutely everything at it. Second half, we realised that we'd made fatal errors with the initial lineup, and we did try and force the issue second half a lot more, but by then you've gave the opposition something to hold on to, and essentially you're having to work your arse off for a point in the end, when essentially it should never have gotten to that. But the first half was just that bad from Boro. It was absolutely awful from us in the first half. But I want to start with our lineup, because I think this is the first time I can honestly say Rob Edwards got it wrong. The first time, and it's not a bad record, we're 12 games in. The first time we can honestly say he's got the starting 11 wrong, but it did not work at all in the first half. We went with a 4-2-3-1, a similar side to what we've been fielding in recent games. Morris came in for Brown, we had Nipan in for Strelets, and Sen in for Tommy Conway, and yeah, it didn't work. It didn't work in the slightest. Boro's first half performance was miles off of what it needed to be. The tempo was really, really off. We were incredibly slow, lethargic. There was no energy in the side whatsoever. We were passing sideways, not really applying any pressure to the Wrexham backline. Essentially, it was a passing exercise. Boro were just playing it around. The passing was off. It was a couple of yards in front, a couple of yards in behind. The ball wasn't sticking when it was played in to the forwards. The gap between the front four was way too big. There was countless issues in that first half as to why the team just did not work. And we had nothing up front in terms of running in behind, pressing. There was just no energy in the team. It was incredibly flat, incredibly ponderous, and a really, really poor watch from a Boro perspective. And it wasn't helped by the fact that we gave Wrexham something to hold on to only 6 minutes in, or 7 minutes in, because Josh Windass was able to pick the ball up on the edge of the box. This came after a decent opportunity that was saved by Bryn before the corner that they played short. And to sum up Boro's first half, they just, strolled out of the box. No one remotely near Josh Windass, who had time and space to set himself and fire a shot on goal. Yes, it took a deflection, a wicked deflection, which, wrong-footed Sol Bryn, which, is a slight bit of good fortune, but the bottom line is the shot shouldn't have come in the first place. Whittaker didn't get close enough when the corner was played. We fell half asleep when the corner was played. Bergzog nowhere near. Windass, as was no one else, really. It summed up Boro's start to the game, really. We were just so far off the pace. It was criminal. And, yeah, he was in space. He took a shot. He gambled. It found the back of the net, 1-0. And it gave Wrexham something to hold on to after that. And it put Boro in that situation that we've been discussing and theorising about, what will happen when Boro are faced at home with a side who just want to sit in and defend hard and listen, Wrexham were a nuisance. They were a real physical nuisance. You know, they were direct, they were vertical. Boro found it very difficult to handle that at times. The physicality of the Wrexham side, Boro really struggled with. You know, I think when you're playing a side as physical as this, you've got to be on it. You know, in possession, you've got to be quick. You've got to move the ball quickly, pass and move quickly. You've got to be incisive. We were the opposite of that. We were slow. We were sluggish. The passing was really, really off. And when you're playing a side as physical as Wrexham, they're just going to bully you, really. And, you know, bully you when they can get the ball, sit deep when they haven't. And essentially, we're just playing in front of them at that point. And when they've got something to hold on to, you're asking the question, well, can Boro break them down? Can we? And the only way to break down a team who is sitting as defensively solid as what they were is you've got to move it quick. You've got to be brave. You've got to take risks. And it was all too easy, all too simple, and all too slow from a Boro point of view. And that is all from the first half, guys. There was nothing else to discuss in the first half. It was a non-event from a Boro point of view. Really, really poor. And it was basically told that with the half-time subs, because for the first time ever in as long as I can remember as a Boro fan, I saw us make 4 changes at half-time. 4. Absolutely crazy, but needed. And I think it was an admission from Edwards himself that he had gotten the starting 11 wrong. And it was also an admission that some of the personnel that came in were just simply miles off it. Luke Ayling came on, as did Alan Brown, Silvera and Tommy Conway. Bergzorg and Whittaker, the 2 wide players, went off, as did Sverre Nipan and Matt Targett. And going to a back 5 made sense. I said in the preview, that's what I would have liked us to have done. Because in the first half with the 4-2-3-1, you know, Bergzorg and Whittaker offered absolutely nothing in the wide areas. When they got the ball, they were wanting to come inside. And that's what Wrexham wanted. You know, they were sat so deep and so narrow. They wanted Boro to play in the central areas. That was the area of the pitch they were trying to block out. The obvious thing for Boro to do was to get out wide, stretch Wrexham, stretch the play, and do something we didn't do enough at all until we scored, really. And that was get the ball out wide and put the ball in the box. And we just didn't do it. We didn't do it anywhere near enough. There were times where the wingers would have the ball, they'd cut inside, the fullbacks weren't overlapping at all, and when they were going forward, they'd just turn back, pass it back inside again. And it was just playing into Wrexham's hands. So I was really delighted to see a switch to a back 5 second half. I thought wing-backs will hopefully give us a little bit more width. We had an extra body in midfield with Alan Brown, which I think helped us in the central areas because it was just so congested in them areas. And then, of course, we had the 2 strikers up top, which, you know, the idea was hopefully it would give us a little bit more of a physical presence up top because Cali Sen basically didn't do anything up front on his own in the first half. And, I mean, it helped in the second half with that back 5. We were better, but I'm going to be honest, you couldn't have gotten much worse in the first half. It wasn't exactly a high bar. You know, it wasn't a high precedent that we'd set ourselves. We were better in the second half, but quite honestly, the only way was up. The only way we could have played was better, to be honest, and even though it was better, it still wasn't great. You know, we had a couple of opportunities towards the end of the second half. We were gaining territory. We were pushing Wrexham deeper. Had more of the ball, but still, really, for the amount of possession that we had, we didn't create all that much at all in the second half. You know, there was a couple of opportunities. Luke Ayling had a curling effort that was saved. You know, we did start putting a few decent balls into the box, a couple of set pieces, but Wrexham were just happy to sit in and defend their box. And it wasn't until the 80th minute we finally got an equaliser. And I guess the pressure to a degree deserved an equaliser. And as I said, one of the very few times we did what we should have done before. Get it out wide and put the bloody ball in. And when we finally did that, look what happened. Callum Britton put a good ball in from the right-hand side. Hayden Hackney got in front of his man. Good header into the side of the goal. And it gave us a bit of hope. And, you know, there was then a good spell of pressure after that where Boro did look like maybe, you know, we might have went on to win the game. But it was all too little, too late. And in the end, we just, couldn't find a way through Wrexham. And it was the story of the game, not being able to break through a very good defence. And you know, it brings up concerns of Boro's creativity, which has certainly been rightfully mentioned throughout the season. Now, it's not as big of an issue because Boro have found a way to win games, and in a lot of games, we've not conceded. So, you know, 1 goal has been good enough to win a game, and that's that's absolutely fine. If that's the way that we can play and win, then that's fine. Chef Wed, we won by a goal to nil. A lot of our games have been 1-goal margins, and that's okay when you are ahead in a game or the game is level. But there's not very many times this season where Boro have gone behind in a game. We did it at Preston, and I think we did it at Southampton, and we managed to get back and draw, but we've never came back from behind to win yet. And I think that's because this team is so limited in terms of creativity. It's so difficult to create them opportunities when a team is sitting on a lead and is defending, and that's what Wrexham did incredibly well. Listen, they came for a point, and I know people will say, well, they weren't great, but they didn't have to be. They got what they needed, and they got a point from it. You can see by the match momentum on screen. There was never a period in the game where Wrexham had a prolonged period of anything, really. There was a little bit around the 70th minute, but it was all Boro second half. But as I've said, for all of that pressure, it was a bit of a concern that we did not create enough. And, when there will be times this season when a team will sit back and defend and ask us to break them down, if this was a test to if Boro could do that successfully, then, well, we've failed miserably, if we're absolutely honest. So that is definitely a huge cause for, not concern, but it's definitely something Rob Edwards has got to find the answer to, has got to come up with the answers. How do Boro get to being better creatively? How do we break through teams like this who'll come and sit with a low block? Because if they do nick a goal, if they do get their noses in front, that's then a huge, huge problem for Boro. It's a huge problem that we simply need to find a way of addressing. I mean, looking at the stats, we are 20th for expected goals. That's got to change. 9th for big chances. These are stats that if you want to be up there, you've got to simply get yourselves higher in some of them metrics. 22nd for accurate crosses. We have so much reliance on our fullbacks and wingbacks. That has to improve as well. So there's definitely issues in the forward areas going forward that Boro have to try and resolve. Everything else in the team is pretty set. Defensively, we gave up nothing today. They got their goal. That was it. Bryn didn't have to do a thing, but it's going the other way. And on the other hand, if you fix the attack, you get things moving, you find a formula that clicks, great. We might be then the perfect team with everything we need. But the problem is, we don't seem any closer at the moment to finding the right front four, the right attacking balance, even the right formation. To be honest, the right cocktail that we need to unlock the best out of this side offensively. We are jumping between a 4 and a 5, jumping between Sen, Conway, Strelets, Nipan. We're going with Whittaker and Bergsorg, or is it wingbacks, or is it 10s? We need to find the answer. And, until that happens, we are going to be limited to what we can do going forward. And, we're second so far, and that's great. But will we stay there if we can't find an answer going forwards? Maybe, maybe not. It's something that has certainly got to improve within Boro's team, because everything else, as I say, defensively, midfield, all is good. Going forward, though, we need to find the answer in that attacking third, because that's what's held us back today. Once a team gets their noses in front and sits and defends, especially that first half, we were just awful. Really, really bad. The tempo's got to be better. They've got to pass it quicker. They've got to move quicker. They've got to have a lot more energy in the team than what we had today, because, it was just so easy for Wrexham. It really, really was. It's got to be better going forward. I mean, looking at the stats, as you can see, for all the possession that we had, to generate an XG of 0.8 is really poor. Wrexham themselves, they had barely any of the ball, and they generated as much of an XG as what we did. Kiefer Moore had a huge chance second half. Their only attack, really, in the whole of the second half, and a cross comes in and he hits the bar. That was effective football that they should have done better with. They should have doubled the lead. It should have been 2-0 Wrexham at that point. But that just goes to tell you that, for all the ball that we had, we did very, very little with it, and we were not effective at all. And to generate an XG that is slightly better than your opposition, when you have had this much momentum, this much possession and territory, to do so little with it is not good enough from Boro. 4 shots on target to their 2, only 1 big chance. It's got to be better in the attacking third. It really, really does. As for the starting 11, well, there is a lot to ponder in this team and this 11 right now, because as I've said, we aren't any closer to finding out what our best 11 is. As I said, defensively, we're fine. I don't mind if we play with a back 5. I don't mind if we play with a back 4. I think maybe utilising the wing-backs might give us a little bit more width in games like this. I was surprised Target went off for Silvera. I would have maybe give Bangura a go, to be honest. You know, he is there, he is fit now. But yeah, we did see something out of Britton. We did see a good assist from him. I don't think it's anything on Britton himself. I think we just need to get the full-backs and wing-backs into the game, or we need to utilise them better, and the crossing has got to be better as well. So that's one of the other conundrums. You know, what can we do with the back four, back five? What do we do there? Because I think Luke Ayling is definitely someone who has to play. He's been one of our best players, and I think is the best passer in that area of the pitch. And I think it will help us so much to maybe unlock a team with his passing ability. We saw that at Southampton, the ball he played for Calisen. So, you know, do we get Luke Ayling into that team? Do we replace Callum Britton with Luke Ayling, or do we then play with a back five? Possibly. And then the midfield too. Listen, Hackney was good today. I thought he, you know, first half he was in a team that struggled. I think everyone could have done better, but he was always, I think, trying to carry the ball, trying to drive us forward, trying to make things happen. So I'm not going to put as much blame on Hackney today, but Morris didn't exactly warrant or prove that he warranted that start that he got over Alan Brown. A lot of people were surprised that Alan Brown didn't start. I can understand why, when you've got, you know, a 3-game week and you want to utilise the squad, and there was a quick turnaround between Wednesday and Saturday. I get why we brought in Aidan Morris, but yeah, it wasn't great. Again, Aidan Morris's form's not in a great place right now, and Alan Brown come on second half and picked up from where he left off. He was very, very good. So I think if we're playing with a 2 in the future, I think it's Hackney and Brown for me. I think Brown has the shirt, if I'm absolutely honest. But the biggest conundrum is this front four. It really, really is. What the hell do we do? And what is the correct answer? Whittaker and Bergzorg were anonymous today. Again, I can see why he started them because of recent performances. Of course, they were both involved in the 2 goals we got against Ipswich, both involved in the Sheffield Wednesday goal as well. But, you know, Ipswich are a side that have just been tonked 3-0 by Charlton, and Sheffield Wednesday the worst team in the league. So were their contributions maybe overinflated by the teams we were playing? I don't know, but they offered nothing in the game today. You know, they offered no width, no creativity on the ball, no real pressure off the ball. They both struggled with the physicality, especially Morgan Whittaker. You know, it was like playing with 10 men today. He didn't really offer us anything at all in this game. Nipan didn't have a great half either. You know, he was trying to get involved, but I think, again, the physicality isn't there. He was getting sort of bullied off the ball a lot by Wrexham, and you know, we have to move the ball quicker in these situations because they were on us, and we were struggling to keep hold of the ball, and Nipan didn't have a great first half, and neither did Calisen. You know, he was up on his own, granted, the service wasn't great, but there wasn't that much of a press from the front. You know, he was not making many runs in behind. He didn't have a great first half either, and I think it's clear from the changes that were made second half. I think Conway's the better starter. I think of the 2, Conway's the better starter. I think we missed his energy first half. I think he sets the tone from the front. We missed that in the first half. Sen, I think, has definitely proven himself to be a more impact player. So, yeah, he's better to come off the bench. Conway definitely improved things when he come on, as did Alan Brown, as did Luke Ayling. Strelets come on 68th minute, didn't really get into the game at all. Silvera offered us a bit of width on the left, but his end product was poor. So, yeah, I'm struggling to see what the answer is at the moment, just to make Boro that little bit better going forward. Sen doesn't start. I don't think you start Bergzorg or Whittaker either. And, you know, it's Nipan or Strelets. One of them hopefully can take ownership of that shirt. And I think you do put Brown in for Morris. It's then a question of, how do we choose to attack? Do we go with wing-backs? Do we go with wingers? Do we go with 10s? I think the balance that we're not quite getting at the minute is when we play with a back 5, we don't create much. And we are very good defensively. Vice versa, when we're playing with a 4, we've been better, but then we've been more open at the back. So, yeah, it's an interesting one Edwards has got to solve. But, yeah, today, the overall performance by everyone, you know, it was as a team performance, it was miles off it. Slow, ponderous, lethargic, miles off it. Not good enough at all. But obviously, we then take a look at the table, and it makes you feel a bit better once again, because at the end of the day, we've got 7 points from a week, which, you know, is not a bad return. at all. You know, I think if it was the other way around and we drew to Ipswich and then beat Wrexham and Sheff Wednesday, I think you'd be coming out of this week feeling a lot better. So, you know, perception is something to be mindful of there. Still second, 3 points or 2 points clear of Millwall, who won 4 on the bounce, have Millwall. Bristol City won 3 on the bounce, so the gap's closed. Obviously, Coventry are just absolutely unstoppable at the minute. I think if they won 6 in a row now, 5 in a row. So, yeah, Boro just have to be wary, you know, that there are a couple of teams beneath us that are winning consecutive games, 4 in a row, 3 in a row. Coventry will pull away. I think we do just have to raise our levels now a little bit to maintain second place. Otherwise, we might drop between 1 or 2 sides below. We still can't, you know, knock the position we're in. Today, we still got away from the game with a point. That helps us carry momentum at the next game. We've not lost, which is a massive positive, of course. So, you know, you can still look at things in a positive manner and take it in the next few games. But Watford and Leicester coming up, I think we definitely need to improve offensively in them areas just to give us that extra few percent to maintain the position we are in, because it's there for the taking at the moment. You know, there's still so many sides in this league, big sides, who are just losing games and struggling. And I think there is now a real opportunity opening up for a side like Boro to just put a run of results together. And like Cov, we will pull away at the top, which would be amazing for us. But at the minute, a couple of teams beneath who are just clinging on and are within touching distance. And, you know, a poor result at Watford and we could be outside the top 2, which, you know, let's not forget, pre-season expectations to be in the top 6 would have been amazing. Let's not forget, we'd have snapped your hand off for this in August. But I think now we're here and we know what this team can do, and looking at the league around us, it's a great chance for us, this. And I just want us to just get that little bit extra out the front 4 and try and kick on and stick with Coventry if we can, because everything else about this team is great. But going forward, we have to be better. And today, I think, highlighted that more than ever before this season. So, yeah, a disappointing one for Boro, and we need to bounce back. Every time we've had a bad performance, we have bounced back, granted. This season, you know, we bounced back from the Doncaster Cup defeat, bounced back from the Pompey defeat with the Ipswich game. So, here's hoping we can go to Watford next week and get a good performance and result in. Hopefully the week off will be good for us to recover and go again. But I do just think, you know, picking our best 11 at the moment, your guess is as good as mine. We just need to try and land on something and it start to click. Because, yeah, is our creative output at the minute sustainable for a top 2 push? Not for me. We have to improve in that area. And I think everything else is still decent. So, yeah, a poor performance today by Boro, but a point is a point, and we simply just have to move on. Performances have to improve from today and probably from Sheffield Wednesday as well. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit a like on the video, subscribe for more, and hit the bell too so you never miss when a video drops. Comment below with your thoughts as always, and I'll be back later next week to preview the Watford game, of course, as well as much more. As always, if you want to see more from me, my gaming channel is linked in the description, to which I am doing an FC 26 career mode with the Boro right now in the Premier League, which is really, really awesome. So check that out if you haven't already. But until next time, guys, do take care, and I'll see you all in the next one.